As we all know, Battlefield 1 will be set in World 1 in extreme opposition to the upcoming Call of Duty game, which of course is going to be set in space. But apparently Battlefield 1 had some trouble even getting off the ground. As we heard last month how the EA Studios boss Patrick Soderlund initially rejected the pitch from DICE for Battlefield 1, EA CFO Blake Jorgensen has now said that there were concerns that the younger audience for Battlefield 1 wouldn't even know that World War 1 happened. Now, he made these comments at the Bank of America Merrill Lynch 2016 Global Technology Conference, and basically said that there was quote-unquote some debate inside of EA about the setting of Battlefield 1. And he said, quote, "World War 1, we were worried that many of the younger consumers out there didn't know there was a World War II or Vietnam or so World War 1. And another one of the reasons why the initial pitch was actually rejected was that they thought that, hey, trench warfare isn't going to be all that fun, but obviously there's much more to World War 1 than that. Now, obviously, there was a huge amount of trench warfare, and there undoubtedly will be some of that in the game, but it wasn't just trenches. And once the developers actually presented the full scope of ideas to EA of what World War game would actually entail, they got the green light. And Jorgensen said, quote, "I think what people don't understand about World War 1 is the technology shift that went on during the war. People started the war on horseback and ended the war with airplanes and tanks and battleships and submarines. That's a huge opportunity for us to do a video game around." Now, I would say that it's ridiculous to claim that people wouldn't know what World War 1 is. I mean, surely you would learn that as part of your history class or whatever, but, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but I would think that most would know what World War 1 is, but maybe not the sort of ins and outs of the setting, what exactly a World War 1 setting actually means in terms of the technology, and how you have horses and tanks in the same war, which is crazy when you think about it, but that's exactly what World War 1 was. A very weird sort of midpoint where technology was kind of sort of half in the past and half in the future, and World War 1 is where we had a lot of sort of early iterations of things like tanks and, you know, machine guns and other stuff like that. So I can kind of see why they're a little bit concerned, but obviously they were shown the light, and we indeed finally got the green light for Battlefield 1. Now obviously, while it's definitely worth considering, hey, is this going to appeal to the younger audience, I would say that a pretty big chunk of Battlefield is going to be, well, you know, not younger people, people in their sort of mid-20s to early 30s, you know, the average gamer is, as they say, about 30 to 35. Most people who are playing games now grew up with games and are, you know, a little bit older, you know, they've got jobs and stuff, you know, they're 25 to 35, that kind of age range, and they're definitely going to know what World War 1 is in, like, 95% of cases, I would say. Obviously, I'm making some pretty sweeping generalizations here, but without, you know, going onto the streets and doing a survey, there's not really any way of knowing, but I'd say it's a fairly safe assumption, and that's obviously something they realised as well, that, hey, maybe there's an issue here, but considering the rest of the market, you know, they obviously know exactly who buys their game, the demographic that purchases their games every time it comes out, the audience that Battlefield actually has, and they looked at them and went, well, even if that's true, which it probably isn't, we've got X amount of people aged this age that undoubtedly will know what World War 1 is. So, I mean, if a lot of younger people don't know what World War 1 is, I would say who the hell is teaching their history classes, to be quite frank. But apparently EA went to some dodgy schools where you didn't know what World War 1 is, but I don't know. So apparently that was a valid concern in EA's mind. Hashtag EA logic, I guess. Just a bit strange to me, but hey-o, you know, what do I know? I'm just glad that it's happening, because it actually sounds interesting to me, which is something that I very rarely say about modern military shooters. I can't really say modern when it's about World War 1, but you get my point. Battlefield, Call of Duty, not usually my cup of tea, but Battlefield 1 actually looks quite intriguing with the weird mix of technology and the all sorts of cool biplanes and stuff that you're getting in the game as well. So, yeah. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.